You know the classic matchup, right? It's Wall Street, with all their supercomputers and armies of analysts, against, well, you, the individual investor. It seems pretty hopeless, doesn't it? But what if I told you their greatest strengths, their massive size, their teams, their endless rules, are actually their biggest weaknesses? In this explainer, we're going to show you exactly why being small is your ultimate unfair advantage.
So, let's set the stage. On one side, you've got Goliath Griffin. This guy is managing billions, has a whole army of analysts, and probably hasn't slept since 2008. And on the other side, there's David. And guess what? That's you. You've got a life, you've got a day job, and you call your own shots. Now, conventional wisdom says Goliath just crushes David every single time.
But does he really? That's the question we're about to dig into, because the answer reveals this fundamental and honestly fascinating flaw in how the whole big money game is actually played.
Okay, first, let's be honest about the myth. It makes perfect sense to assume that the investor with the most money, the fastest tech, and the biggest team is going to win, right? I mean, that's the story we're all told.
This is the exact image Wall Street wants you to have in your head. But what if all that size, all that power comes with a hidden cost? What if it comes with a set of incredibly restrictive rules and constraints that act like shackles, holding them back from the very best opportunities out there?
Let's dive right into the first shackle. Now, this is a self-imposed rule, and it sounds sensible on the surface, but in practice, it forces them to basically sabotage their own success. It's called the 5% rule.
So here's the deal with this rule. A lot of these huge funds are literally forbidden from letting any single stock become more than 5% of their total portfolio. It's supposed to be a risk management tool, right? It's meant to stop one bad bet from sinking the whole ship. But it has this massive unintended side effect.
Just 5%. Think about that. Imagine you find the next big thing in its early days. It starts to take off. It's soaring, proving you were absolutely right. For an individual investor, that's a home run. For a professional fund manager, that's when the compliance officer starts walking towards their desk.
And here is the absolutely insane part. Just as their best idea is proving itself, they are forced, literally forced to sell. Not because they've lost faith in the company, not at all, but because some arbitrary rule says they have to. They have to chop down their biggest winner just to stay under that 5% ceiling. It's wild.
This quote just says it all perfectly. They are forced to trim their beautiful blooming flowers just so they can go water the weeds in the rest of their portfolio. As an individual, you are completely free from that nonsense. You can let your winners run as high as they can go.
All right, the second shackle isn't a written rule, it's all psychological. See, for a ton of fund managers, the main goal isn't to hit a home run, it's to avoid getting fired.
And a perfect example of this is a practice called window dressing. So right before they have to send out those quarterly reports to their clients, managers will often just dump their losing stocks. Not because the companies are bad, but so they don't have to admit on paper that they made a mistake. It's investing based purely on appearances, not on solid fundamentals.
This same fear also leads them to do what's called hugging the benchmark. Basically, they all just crowd into the same handful of huge, obvious stocks. You know the names: Apple, Microsoft, and so on. So why would all these highly paid professionals buy the exact same things? It all boils down to something called career risk. There's this old Wall Street saying that just says it all. If a fund manager buys a safe stock like IBM and it goes down, they can just turn to their boss and say, "Hey, everyone lost money on that one. No big deal." But if they take a chance on some small, unknown company and it fails, well, they're probably out of a job. It is far safer to be wrong with the crowd than it is to be right all by yourself.
And now, for the third and final shackle. And honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. The simple, inescapable trap of just being too big.
You don't have to take my word for it. Even the great Warren Buffett admits this. He's famously said that size is an anchor to performance. The more money you have to manage, the harder and harder it becomes to find opportunities that will actually make a real difference.
Think about it like this, okay? The huge institutional fund is like an elephant. It's massive, it's powerful, but it can only hunt for other elephants, these huge, well-known, large-cap companies. But you're a cheetah. You're fast, you're nimble, and you can hunt anywhere, especially in the really fertile ground of small companies and other areas the elephants can't even see. You know, the math here is really simple. If a billion-dollar fund puts money in a tiny $50 million company and that company doubles in value,
The gain is just a rounding error for them. It literally doesn't move the needle on their performance. And what that means is that entire chunks of the market, often the most exciting high-growth areas, are completely off limits to them. But they are wide open for you.
So, let's put this all together. Every single one of Goliath's shackles is a source of your freedom. Their constraints become your competitive edge. Let's call it your freedom multiplier. Think about it. Because that 5% rule forces them to cut their winners short, you are free to let yours compound for years. Because they window dress their portfolios at the end of every quarter, you can swoop in and buy great companies when they're panic selling. Because their enormous size locks them out of the most dynamic companies, you have an entire universe to explore. They are slaves to the quarterly report. You are the master of your own timeline.
In the end, this isn't about having more data or a faster computer. It's about freedom. The professionals on Wall Street are forced to play a game where their hands are tied behind their backs. You are not. They have to play by their rules. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with the freedom to play by yours?